So, all of these DIYs today were inspired by this adorable Valentine's cupcake sign that I got from Hobby Lobby. I saw this and knew immediately that I wanted to do a cupcake themed coffee bar with a cupcake themed tier tray. So, enjoy all of these cupcake themed DIYs. For my first cupcake themed DIY, I'm going to start off with this little plaque that I got from the Dollar Tree a while ago. And the first thing I'm going to do is paint it white with my white Waverly chalk paint. Now, you could probably skip this step because I do end up changing it, but I guess it did, help because it did cover the graphic that was on there. Next, I found this really cute Cupcake Valentine's Day card from the Dollar Tree, and the sign was only big enough to fit the Happy Valentine's Day on top and then the first 2 rows of cupcakes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it down by using my paper cutter, and I'm just basically going to cut off that bottom row of cupcakes. Next, I'm going to take some decorative scissors and I'm just going to cut around the picture and I'm just going to cut that red border off. Now this is where I decided that I really didn't like the white. So what I ended up doing was taking my crimson Waverly chalk paint and I'm going to go ahead and paint the perimeter of this sign and the edges of it too. You don't really have to paint the inside because the card is going to cover it. Once that's dry, I decide that I wanted to raise up the card a little bit. So I'm going to take the other half of the greeting card and I'm just going to cut off 2 little pieces and then hot glue it to the back. Now you wouldn't think that this would add much height, but it actually did raise it up a little bit. So I really liked how this looked. So I just layered them and then I just hot glued my card in the middle of my little plaque. Now I felt like this needed, I don't know, just like some special pizzazz or something. So I just went through my stash and picked out rhinestones, hearts, anything 3D that I could use to jazz this card up. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And hey, stick around with me for a while by subscribing to my channel. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I really hope you also love what you see today. And I'm excited to share even more fun content soon. So after my embellishments were all on, I took a little cup and poured some Mod Podge in it, and then I added some pink and red glitter that I'm basically just going to paint on my little sign. Now you're going to see that I actually use this mixture throughout the entire video for all of my DIYs today. Once my Mod Podge and glitter is dry, this cute little cupcake sign is done and ready for my tiered tray. Now you're going to have to wait till the end to see the final reveal of all my DIYs. Alright, next up, this is actually a DIY that I did last year on my channel, but my channel was so small, not a lot of people saw it, so I decided to show it, but I am going to change it up to fit this year's cupcake theme too. So I'm going to go ahead and make the stacked books, and so I started off with this wooden crate from the Dollar Tree and gave it a good coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. Now I did want to go ahead and clear out those little slats, so I just took a knife and just, ran it down just to clear out any of that paint. Next, I'm going to take my pink parfait paint and I'm going to paint the top little slat with that. And then I'm going to paint the bottom slat with my crimson chalk paint from Waverly. Okay, so now speed up to this year. I dug my stacked books out of my Valentine's Day bin, and what I'm doing now is just removing any of the little accessories that I had put on my stacked books last year. And I'm going to do this by heating up the hot glue with my heat gun and then just pulling all of it off. I went for the rustic look last year, but this year to go with the cupcake theme, I'm just going for bright, colorful, and cutesy. So I'm going to go ahead and take off that twine because it doesn't really fit into my theme for my tiered tray. So next, I'm going to take this really cute polka dot ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue it around the pearls of my stacked book. Now, if you want to see the actual full tutorial of how to make these stacked books, I will link the video in the description box below, and you can see what they looked like last year. So now I'm going to take these letters that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to spell out love is sweet. Now for my O in love, I'm actually going to use some confetti that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use a heart from that pack. And then I'm just going to continue adding my letters. When you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy. Once all my letters were on and pressed down, I do want to protect them, so I am going to put a layer of Mod Podge on the front of my stacked books. So to the top of my books, I'm going to take that bottom half of that greeting card and I'm going to cut out one of the cupcakes. Now I did want to add a little bit more texture to my cupcake, so I just added one of those foam glittery hearts. And I do want to make my cupcake stand up on top of the book stack, so I hot glued a bead to the top, and then I'm just going to hot glue my cupcake to the front. Then I decided that I wanted to add a little more. So these are actually the hearts that I pulled off of this book stack originally. So I just pulled them apart, and I'm going to go ahead and hot glue them at an angle just like that. And then I'm going to hot glue my cupcake right into the middle. Now to give it even more support, I did go ahead and hot glue 2 more beads to the back of those hearts. Then to top this little book stack off, I'm going to take that Mod Podge glitter mixture again, and I'm just going to paint on some glitter to the front just to add some extra pizzazz. I loved how these book stacks came out, but not only that, I loved how I repurposed something that I used last year to fit my theme this year. For my next DIY, I'm going to be using these Scrabble letters that I actually got from the Target dollar spot a few years ago, but they sell Scrabble letters at Hobby Lobby, any of the craft stores, and even Dollar General. I'm going to go ahead and pull out L, V, E, and 2 blank Scrabble blocks, or just 2 blocks, and I'm just going to use the back. Next, I'm going to grab 2 tumbling tower blocks, and 2 wasn't quite enough, but 3 was too long. So I decided to add another Scrabble piece because I decided to do #love. So I thought that that would be really cute. At first I was going to do love you, but then you'll see I change it. So now the 3 tumbling tower blocks looks much better. It looks proportional to 5 Scrabble letters. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little shelf for my Scrabble letters just like in the game. So I'm going to hot glue 3 tumbling tower blocks together. And I'm going to do this twice. So I'm going to have 2 sets of 3 tumbling tower blocks glued together. And then I'm going to hot glue one of my sets on top of the other, but off to the like off to the back, so that way it makes a little shelf. Then I'm going to line up all of my pieces to make sure they all fit and look good. After that, I'm going to take one of the blank Scrabble pieces, and I'm just going to take my black paint pen and simply just draw the pound sign or the hashtag sign on that. Next, I'm going to paint my entire little shelf with white Waverly chalk paint. All right, so after my little shelf was dry, I'm going to go ahead and line up all my pieces, and then I'm going to hot glue them down. Now, originally I did hot glue that heart Scrabble piece onto my little shelf, but you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to actually switch that out because I realized I didn't really have anything cupcake in this DIY. But first I wanted to add some glitter, so then basically just painted it all over my shelf. I did not put it over the letters though. After all my glitter was dry, this is when I decided to switch out that Scrabble letter. So what I did was pull off that letter that had the heart on it, or the tile that had the heart on it, and flipped it backwards so it was blank. Then I found this little cupcake sticker in my stash, but of course it wasn't the right colors, and it would really bug me that I had blue and yellow cupcake and everything else is the classic red, pink, and white colors. So I just took some paint and I painted my cupcake so it fit better into my theme. Now, this was very picky of me. You absolutely do not have to do this, or you could just leave the heart, or you don't have to do anything at all. It's totally up to you, but like I said, it just really would bug me if that would just stick out, and I just did not like it. So I just went ahead and made it over. After my little cupcake sticker was dry, I went ahead and hot glued a really tiny red rhinestone to the little cherry on top just to bling it out a little bit. And as you can see, the sticker came off. So I decided to go ahead and put some Mod Podge on that tile and Mod Podge my sticker down. That way it will adhere better to the Scrabble piece. Then I took a black marker and I just made those little lines like a cupcake liner, and that was it. This little Scrabble piece is complete. Next up, I found this little ice cream looking house in the fairy garden section, and of course I'm not doing ice cream, I'm doing cupcakes, or at least I think it's supposed to be ice cream, I'm not sure. Anyways, I wanted this to look more like a cupcake, so I decided to make this over too. So this really isn't a DIY as much as it's just like a little hack. I just kind of repainted it to look like a cupcake. So I painted the bottom to look like the cupcake liner, and then of course I took my black paint marker and I just made those lines to make it look like the cupcake liner. And then I'm simply going to hot glue one of these foam balls on the top to make it look like a cherry on top. Then in that confetti pack, I found a really small heart. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the heart on the door. And this is just to give it some texture. Now, I also decided that I wanted the little cherry on top to look more like a cherry. So what I did was actually cut off a little stem off a floral pick and hot glue that to the top. And then I took that glitter mixture again and I just painted on some glitter to the top of my little cupcake. And after my glitter was dry, this little cupcake was complete. I really love how this turned out, and this just goes to show you that you can take something that maybe you don't really love and you can paint it and you can add to it to really turn it into something you enjoy. All right, next up, you know we gotta have a gnome. So I picked up this gnome last year, but I did see that they are bringing these back this year at the Dollar Tree. So definitely pick up a bunch because these are so much fun to redo and put on tiered trays. So obviously these aren't the right colors, so I'm going to go ahead and paint his pants in red crimson chalk paint, and I am going to give that 2 coats. For the shirt, I'm going to paint that in ballet slipper from Waverly, and again, I'm going to give that 2 coats. Then I'm going to touch up the shoes and the belt with some black paint. So I was racking my brain, how can I bring in the cupcake theme for my gnome? And then I got it. The hat. The hat looks like the major big frosting on Cupcake. So I took some caulk that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm simply just going to basically ice his hat. So you'll see that I start putting the caulk all the way around. Then I'm going to grab a small craft stick, just a mini one, and I'm basically going to ice this hat like you would ice a cupcake, and I went all the way up. Shy, I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. Once the icing was on, I went ahead and sprinkled some pink glitter on the hat to make it look like sprinkles, and then I am going to sprinkle some red glitter on the hat as well. I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing into the night sky when you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper. Now you can see that I do have a little red bead on top. Ignore that for now because I will be switching it out. But for his hands, I actually took one of these wooden hearts and I simply just hot glued it down to his hand so it made it look like he was holding the heart. And then I hot glued a little pink heart in the red heart. Then I took that same glitter Mod Podge Mod Podge mixture, and I just painted on some glitter. Now, of course, glitter is optional. You do not have to do that, but I just thought that Valentine's Day is so fun, so I just wanted to add some glitter. Now you can see there, and I must have lost the footage, I did switch out the little cherry on top with one of those sparkly foam balls. So at this point, I thought that this DIY was done, but then I realized I really did not like it. I don't know, there was just something about the hat that I just didn't like. So I went ahead and tried to scrape off as much of the glitter as I could, but it was totally fine if not all of it came out. And then I took my pink Parfait apple barrel paint and I painted the top of his hat to make it look like pink frosting. After my paint was dry, I took these little red beads and I hot glued them to all over the hat to make them look like sprinkles, and they really do look like sprinkles. Then, I gotta add some glitter to this, so I took that mixture and painted on some pink glitter to the top of his hat. And then I replaced the little cherry on top, but this time I also added a little stem to make it look more like a cherry. And now this gnome is complete, and I really love how this looks. How festive and cute. All right, next up, this was actually a DIY from last year as well. So we're gonna go ahead and make a beaded garland. So the first thing I did was take these packs of colored beads from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pull out all of the big red pieces and the big pink pieces. Altogether, I used about 2.5 packs, and I just pulled out all the pieces I could find of the bigger beads of red and pink. Then I'm also going to use the 18mm pearls from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take some twine, and basically I'm just going to go ahead and thread all of my pieces through. The pattern I used was pink, pearl, red, pearl, pink, pearl, red, pearl, and I did this until all of my beads were used. We went to a small bar with neon lights, talked about everything that was on our minds. Talking to you gave me butterflies. All right, now we're going to make a tassel. So I'm just going to take some twine, and I like to wrap it around my sanding block because I think it's a good length. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it long ways several times until I get the thickness that I like. And no, I did not count, but you can just kind of judge it and see how many times you like it or the thickness. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull it off of that sanding block, cut off the twine, and then I'm going to take a smaller piece of twine and I'm going to tie it at the top to make like the head of my tassel. I'm going to wrap it around and tie it off. Now I did add some hot glue to just kind of give it extra support. Then I'm going to cut the loops at the bottom, give it a haircut so they're all even. Next, I'm going to take one end of my garland and I'm going to thread it through the loop of my tassel. And I'm simply going to tie it to that end of the garland. I hope that makes sense. Now you do want to make sure that your beads are pushed all the way down to the top of the tassel. And I did double knot it because I obviously want to make sure that my tassel stays on. And again, I cut it off and then added some hot glue to give it some. Now, like I said, I did make this last year. So I pulled it out again this year. And now, instead of using what I have on there, we're going to add something else to the other side. So I found this cute little rubber cupcake. It actually came on a straw from the Dollar Tree, but my daughter got to it before I could show the camera, like the packaging. But obviously, again, these aren't the colors I wanted, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint it. So I'm just going to use my ballet slipper, my crimson chalk paint, and some other accessories to paint this to look like how I want.
We went to a small bar with neon lights, talked about everything that was on our mind. Talking to you gave me butterflies.
This is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube you love what you see and you want to see more. So smash that like button.
Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder.
Now for the cherry on top, I had a really small red bead that I'm going to go ahead and hot glue to the top. Although I do recommend using E6000 or a super glue because this just falls right off because it is rubber. Next, I'm going to add a little heart to the bottom. So I'm going to take this foam heart, and it was a little too big, so I just folded it in half, and I'm just going to make it a little smaller, and then I'm going to hot glue it to the bottom of my cupcake. Then I'm going to take that glitter mixture again, and I'm going to go ahead and paint that on.
Kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper. Kiss a little harder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and take my garland that I made, and I'm just going to take off that heart that I had put on last year. And again, I'm going to melt the hot glue by putting my heat gun over it, and then I'm just going to pull it off. Then the cupcake had like a little loop on the back because it's supposed to go over a straw. So I just simply put that end of the garland through the loop, and then I just hot glued it to the back, and it was that easy. Now, I did put a little piece of paper over the back of the rope or of the twine because just for extra support, because obviously I didn't want it to come off. So as you can see, that little red bead for the cherry keeps coming off. So that's why I definitely recommend some super glue or something other than hot glue. But after I put the cherry on top, that was it. My garland is perfect and it's so cute. All right, next up, I'm going to take this little pitcher that I got from the Dollar Tree last year, and by using some 100% acetone and a paper towel, I'm going to just simply wipe off the graphic that was on the pitcher.
Talked about everything that was on our mind.
Next, I'm going to take this really cute pink ribbon, and I'm just simply going to hot glue it all the way around my pitcher, and then I'm going to take that white and pink polka dot ribbon and hot glue that on top of the pink ribbon.
Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper. Kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper. Kiss a little harder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder. Love a little louder.
For the front of my picture, I'm going to take that other cupcake that came from the greeting card and hot glue that to the front. And then I'm going to hot glue one of those little hearts on the top. And that was it. This is perfect to go on a tiered tray to hold some straws or some spoons or something like that. Candy even. For our final DIY, I figured a cupcake theme tier tray has to have a cupcake. So I picked up this little red bowl from the Dollar Tree and two of these foam pieces. Now, one of the pieces I stuck into the bowl. This second piece I'm going to cut in half. Now, I didn't have my knife with me. I thought I brought it from my mom's, but it must still be over there. So I just used this little scraper tool. But basically, I wanted to create the shape of a cupcake. And if you think about it, you see like the cupcake itself, and then you see the icing. So for the piece of foam that I did not cut, I went ahead and painted that in ivory chalk paint. Now, I do wish that I had a more yellow cream chalk paint to make it look like vanilla cupcakes, or you could do brown for chocolate, but a lot of my paints are still at my mom's, so I just used what I had. Once that was dry, I went ahead and hot glued it into my little bowl, and then I hot glued the top part of that other foam piece that I cut on top of that. Then I took some white Waverly chalk paint and painted that top piece. Now, of course, you can paint the ivory too. I just didn't think of it. And this doesn't have to be perfect, just a base coat. After that dry, I am going to take that caulk again, and I'm just going to ice my cupcake just like we did for the hat on the gnome. Now, here's a little tip. I have this little Lazy Susan next to me, and oh my goodness, it was so much easier to use this, and I felt like an actual baker, cake decorator, because I know that they use those little turntables as well. But I just went ahead and iced my cupcake, and when I came to the top, I just kept going around and around and around until it closed up. Look how adorable this is looking. Next, it's time to decorate our cupcake. So I'm going to take that pink glitter again, and I'm just going to sprinkle that all over my icing. And then these are the little red beads I was talking about. They came from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle those on, and don't they look like actual sprinkles? And for the cherry, I'm going to take one of the larger foam glitter balls. And that's like that vase filler stuff. Now I'm going to take this ribbon, and I'm simply going to hot glue it around the cup of the cupcake.
Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. Love a little louder. 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 I was at the wrong place at the right time.
Now, I'm loving the way it's looking so far, but I just felt like the top needed something. And I remembered that I had these little toothpicks with the hearts. So I decided to hot glue some pink and red ones on the top to make it look like those big edible sprinkles. And I really loved the touch that this added.
Let my guard down. Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud. Talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder.
Then to complete my little cupcake, I added a little stem to the cherry on top, and that was it. And I absolutely love how this came out, and it is the perfect addition to my tiered tray.
Talked about everything that was on our minds. Talking to you gave me back.
So now that all my cupcake themed DIYs are complete, it's time for the final reveal. What do you think?
I love you. I give you everything you want me to. Think about it if I.
For the first DIY, I'm going to start off with these two tag signs. Now, they're not the same size, but that's okay because it's not really going to matter. But I'm going to work with this USA sign first. And I'm going to start off by taking off the little stars. And of course, I'm not going to throw those away. I'm going to keep them probably for 4th of July crafting. And then I'm going to go ahead and sand off the glitter on the front. Then, of course, I'm going to clean up my mess with my little ladybug. So I just cleaned up that glitter so it didn't shed anywhere, but I'm actually going to be using the back of this. Next, by using a chippy brush, I'm going to give this a distressed coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. So what I mean by distressed coat is I'm okay if some of that original board color is coming through. I want it to come through. Now I want the majority of it to be white. As you can see, there's a lot of white, but there are little areas where that brown is peeking through. After my paint was dry, I'm going to take my level, I'm going to place it in the middle of my tag, sorry about my head, and then by using a pencil, I'm going to draw a line on the top and on the bottom. Then I'm just going to move the level down and line up the line that I just drew, and then do the same thing working my way up. Now, I realized that my lines weren't as dark as I wanted, so after I smudged them in with my finger, I did go through and darken them up, so I did push a little harder this time, and then you're going to see that I take my finger again and smudge all my lines. Next, I'm going to take this decal that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I thought that these were so pretty. I just love that pink color. So I'm just going to arrange some of the flowers on my tag. Now, if the flowers are hanging over the edges, that's okay. I am going to cut them down, and I wanted them to look like they were hanging off and, you know, just kind of growing in every direction. So I just kind of played with these flowers until I had them arranged on my board how I liked. Next, I made sure that they were pushed down really well, and then I just cut the part of the sticker that was hanging over. I cut it off by using my scissors. Next, to give my sign nice clean edges, I just took some sandpaper and sanded down the excess sticker that was also hanging off. To give my flowers a more vintage and rustic look, I lightly sanded over them with my sandpaper. Now you can absolutely stop right here and leave that sign just like that, but you know me, I love that rustic look, so I'm going to take the top of a foam brush and I'm going to dip it in some Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just going to go around the edges of my tag, and you can see that I'm just dabbing it and then kind of wiping it with my finger, and I'm doing this to highlight all of the edges, and I am going around the corners as well. After that, I decided that I wanted the little slats on my board to look a little bit more realistic. So I'm taking my knife and my level, and I'm using that as a straight edge, and I'm just going to score the board 4 times going down each slat. So I saw that, I kind of figured like 4 was the magical number. It was just enough to open up like make a cut there, but not cut all the way through the board. And you do want to make sure you don't cut all the way through the board. So after that, I just continued taking my Waverly Antique Wax and I went over all of my cuts. And I did do this at the side of, or like the tippy top of my foam brush. That way it got in each one of those cuts. Then I took my Waverly Antique Wax and I went around the circle, the hole up top, and then I just kind of went randomly over the flowers as well. And you can see that I am smudging it all in with my finger just to kind of help blend it all together. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, thank you so much for choosing to stop by today. I truly hope you love what you see and hang out with me for a while by hitting that subscribe button. If you're returning, you already know I love you, I appreciate you. And thank you so much. You all got me to 17,000 subscribers this past week, and I could not be more blessed and ecstatic about that. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for all the wonderful comments you give me. I do read them all. I just want you to know, even though I may not be able to respond to each one of them, please know I am reading them, and I do love reading all the comments. So please keep them coming. So after I had my board distressed how I liked it, I just went ahead and gave this entire thing a good coat of Mod Podge. Next, I'm going to take that other tag, and this had like a little raised thing at the bottom, so I peeled that off, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the red hanger, and then by using my heat gun and my little scraper, I'm going to take off the tag. Now there was still some residue from the glue from the sticker, so I'm just going to sand that down so it's nice and smooth and ready for me to paint. I'm going to do the same thing I did to that first tag, and I'm just going to give this a distressed coat of Waverly chalk paint in white by using my chippy brush. After that dries, I'm going to take this calendar page that I got in the fall, and after I figure out how I want to line it up on my board, I'm going to start at the bottom half and I'm going to Mod Podge that part down first, and then I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge the top half down. I found it to be easier to do it in sections because then that way it helped get all the bubbles out too and wrinkles. It also helped to use my little brayer tool, and this made sure that it was all pressed down. And then I just kind of went through the edges or the corners where maybe it wasn't stuck down completely, and I just added more Mod Podge until I felt like there was a strong hold. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut the excess paper around my tag. I'm going to cut it off by just using some scissors. Then again, to give it that nice clean cut around the edges, I'm just going to sand it down by using my sandpaper. Next, I'm going to take my level again and I'm going to draw those pencil lines, but I'm actually just going to use the lines that are already on that calendar page. You can see that there's lines already on there, so I'm just lining my lines up and I'm trying to match the thickness of those lines as well. I'm not going all the way across the paper. I'm only doing on the board itself, just so it looks like a continuation of the lines that are from the paper. Then again, I'm going to go through and darken them up and then smudge the pencil with my finger. Now at this point I realized that I wanted to rip the sides of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm just kind of peeling it back a little bit. Then you can see I'm just ripping it and just carefully just taking a strip off, the ends basically. This was actually pretty easy to do even though I had already Mod Podged it down. So I did it on both sides. Then I went through and Mod Podged around my sign again to make sure that the calendar page was all stuck down. And then to get off the paper that was kind of stuck on there, I just used my little scraper tool to peel that up. And then I went through and just kind of redid my lines again because I took more paper off, so now they weren't connected, if that makes sense. So I just fixed my pencil lines. Then I'm going to go through with that foam brush and the Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to distress the edges just like I did on that other tag. And again, I'm going to use my finger to rub it all in, and that way it helps it all blend together. Next, I took the tippy top of that foam brush and I dipped it in that Waverly Antique Wax again. And I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of highlight the lines going across the board. And this time I did go over the paper. And as you can see, I'm using my finger to blend it in as well. Now, to give the truck and the writing more of a distressed look, I did lightly sand over it with my sandpaper. Now, I did feel that this front sign needed more pink since there was so much pink on the tag behind it. So I have this rickraft, so I'm going to go ahead and just hot glue it kind of toward the top or in the middle of where the paper ends and the top of the actual sign. And instead of cutting off the ends, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it around and glue it behind the back. And I'm going to do that on the top and the bottom. Next, I'm going to take a really long string of twine and I'm going to double it up and create just a simple shoelace bow. Now, if you know me, you know I'm not really a bow person, so this is pretty much the only bow I know how to make. But I did double it up so it was a little thicker, and then I went ahead and cut the loops off at the bottom. Now, before I attached my bow, I decided it needed some greenery, so I just took some random greenery picks that I had in my stash, and I'm just going to kind of build it up and just kind of make a little floral display, I guess, over here at the top of my sign. Now, I am covering up the hole that was at the top because I'm not going to be needing it because I'm going to create my own hanger. So now I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the bow back down. Then I'm just going to take smaller little picks and add them and just kind of eyeball it until I get it to look like the way that I like. Next, I'm going to take this little tiny pink flower and I'm going to hot glue that in the middle of my bow. Now that both tags are complete, it's time to stack one on top of the other and just kind of figure out how I want them to lay. So once I did get them laid out, I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace around where that top tag ends. That way I know where to put my hot glue, and when I go to put that top tag back on, I can line it up where it was before. To complete my sign, I'm just going to make a very simple hanger, and I'm going to again cut off a very long piece of twine. I'm going to double it up, and then at the bottom I'm just going to tie a knot, and then I'm just going to hot glue the knot down on the back of my sign, and that was it. This sign is done. I thought that this was so pretty. I am really loving the pastel colors for spring and just the soft pinks and yellows like I stated earlier. So I just really love how this turned out, and of course I loved that calendar page too. Great pops of color. What do you think? For this next DIY, I'm going to be using a round sign from the Dollar Tree, and then one of these cute little pink purses that I also got from the Dollar Tree, although I'm showing you they have it in white as well. So, of course, the first thing I have to do is use my heat gun to go ahead and take off the tag. And what the heat gun does is heats up the adhesive at the bottom. And now I'm just going to sand it down and get ready to paint. So right now I'm going to use my plaster Waverly chalk paint. And I'm just going to give this entire sign a distressed coat, but it is painted mostly, but if little pieces of the brown come through, that's okay. Once my paint was dry, I'm going to go ahead and use that level again, and I'm just going to create those shiplap lines by just creating lines on the top and the bottom of my level, and then working my way down and then working my way back up. Next, I'm going to blend all the lines in by using my finger and just rubbing it all down. After that, I'm going to distress my board by taking this little chunky brush and Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to just dry brush this Waverly Antique Wax all over my board. Now, around the edges of my round sign, I do go in a little darker because I really wanted to highlight the sides. So basically, I'm just going back and forth between using my Waverly Antique Wax and that plaster paint, and just kind of creating the distressed look I'm going for. I always try to make it look like my background that you can see on my table. And so I kind of use that as my inspiration and follow that same color tone and design. So like I said, I'm just going just in between the paint, the wax, and just sanding it down to create the look that I wanted. After my sign was done, I'm going to take this pink little purse. Like I said, it did come from the Dollar Tree. And I am going to cut off the back part of it. I only want one side of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut around it. So it only leaves me with one half. Now you can see on the half that I'm going to be using, there is like a little fold at the bottom. So I'm just going to use my hot glue to fold that in, and that way it gives it a nice clean edge as well. But you do have to use a good amount of hot glue, and you do kind of have to hold it there for a minute. That way the glue sets up. I'm also going to do the same thing going around the edges as well. However, when I do it around the edges, I'm going to wait until I actually put it on the board, and that way I have something to glue it to. So after I have that bottom folded up, glued down, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing my purse onto the wood sign. Now, my positioning is the ends of the purse at the bottom are at the bottom of the sign. And like I said, you do have to use a good amount of hot glue and hold it there until the glue sets up. So as you can see, I'm using that little rubber tool there to tuck the edge of the purse under, so it gives it that nice folded look. This is your friendly reminder that if you love what you see so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube you love what you see and you want to see more. So hit that like button. All right, so once my purse was all glued down, and I did forget to mention, I only glued down the edges. That way the middle of the purse was open like a little pocket. I'm going to go ahead and take off that little flower, but keep it to the side because we will be using it again. And then I am going to hot glue down the handles, but I do end up changing that. So then I decided that I wanted to fill that hole up top. So I'm just going to add some spackle, sand it down when it dries, and then just add some more of that plaster paint and Waverly wax to help it all blend in with the rest of my sign. So it was a very easy fix. I totally forgot to do that at the beginning. All right, next I'm going to take this like kind of burlap lacy ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to hot glue that to the middle of my purse, and I am going to fold down the edges. That way it's a nice clean look and it looks like the ribbon is wrapped around the purse. Now when you hot glue the middle of the purse with the ribbon, you're going to want to make sure that the glue doesn't go all the way through because like I said, you want to leave that opening there, that little pocket there. So just kind of put your hand underneath it. I mean, be careful, but put your hand underneath it and kind of pop it up once the glue dries so that way you have that opening again. So once my ribbon was all glued down, it was just time to fill this with flowers. Now, I sped this up because I am just not a good floral arranger. So I'm just, I'm just showing you what it looks like. And I'm just using a bunch of different florals from my stash. And then I'm going to take one of these metal words that I got in a fall bundle of metal words. And then this is where I decide to go ahead and take off that handle. So I just pried it off and then hot glued that flower back where it was. And now I am trying to position that metal word, but I did want it to pop off just a little bit more, or pop out. So I'm just dabbing it with some Waverly Antique Wax. And the neat thing is that this kind of gives it that rust look as well. So that's going to go with my whole rustic sign. Then it's time to hot glue my metal word in the middle of the ribbon. Then I didn't really like the edges of the purse, so I just took some twine and went ahead and wrapped the edges of my purse with that, and that really cleaned it up a lot. So I really liked how that looked. Now, I did have to cut down the ribbon a little bit so it wasn't longer than the twine, but it was fine. I just worked my way all around the purse. Then I felt like I wanted the perimeter of the sign to be a little darker and just kind of highlight it a little more. So I took that Waverly Antique Wax and that brush again, and I just dabbed it all the way around my sign. And that was it. That completed this super cute spring sign. I even thought, and I know it's totally too early to be thinking about this would make a really cute Mother's Day gift too, I think. But I think this is going to my grandma for spring. And the cool thing is you can actually use the purse handle as the handle. What do you think? For the third DIY, I'm going to use this little mason jar sign that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is remove the twine around the top and then take that metal piece off, although keep it close, we are going to use it again. And then I did start peeling off the paper in the front, but then I realized it would take a lot of sanding to get that lower layer off of there, or that bottom layer. So I just flipped it over, and again, I'm just going to use my heat gun to heat up that sticker and scrape it off. After that, I'm going to sand it down so it's ready to paint, and then I'm going to give this one good coat of ivory chalk paint. Now, I am going to make sure to go around all the sides and the top too. Once that paint was dry, I'm going to take my ballet slipper Waverly chalk paint, and I'm just going to lightly brush over the jar. Now, you can see on the sides, it's not completely covered, and that's okay. I wanted that brown to show through because, again, it gives it that rustic look. So after all of my paint was dry, it was time to hot glue that metal piece back on the top. So I just put it exactly where it was before. And then I'm going to take a piece of burlap and I'm going to cut it down so it fits in the middle of my mason jar. Then once I have the size I wanted, I'm going to fray the edges by pulling the strings off of every side, and you'll see how the edges become frayed. Then I'm going to hot glue my piece of burlap to the middle of my mason jar. Now be careful because of course the burlap has holes, so don't burn yourself. And then I'm just going to go ahead and kind of trim up the edges just to kind of make them a little bit more even, but I definitely don't want it to look perfect. After that, I'm going to take this calendar that I also picked up last year, and I'm going to pick the one that says Hello Spring. I really loved the colors of that one. Now, when I cut this little one out from the back page, I am going to leave a little white border around it. Now, the reason why I left that border was because I am actually going to tear around the sides, and this just gave me more wiggle room, basically. So I am just going to go around the entire little picture and just tear it all up. Now, I wanted my little calendar picture to pop from the burlap a little bit, so I had this piece of cardboard sitting on my table, so I'm just cutting up little pieces, and then I'm just going to hot glue them all together just to give them a little height. And you wouldn't think that cardboard would raise my piece up that much, but it actually did. So once I got all my pieces glued together, I hot glued that to the calendar piece, and then hot glued the calendar piece to the middle of my burlap. Now I'm going to take my twine, and starting from the back, I'm going to wrap it around pretty much how that twine was there before, but I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap it until I get it how I like. And then again, I'm going to take some of that greenery, and I'm going to hot glue two pieces end to end in the corner. So you have one going across and one going down, if that makes sense. Now you do have to put a lot of hot glue because these are kind of thick, but I just, held it there until the glue set up. And of course I'm using my little rubber tool there because this is thin. So, well, the piece is thick, but the stem is thin, so you don't want to burn yourself, obviously. So I'm just kind of building the greenery up just until I get it to how I wanted it to look. And then again, I'm going to take a long piece of twine and I'm going to double it up and just make a very simple bow. Next, I'm going to hot glue the bow where the pieces of greenery meet there in the corner. And I am hot gluing the greenery down even more because it was kind of like popping up, you can see. So I'm just pushing it all down. I just really wanted it to be flat. That way you can really see the bow. Then I took a little yellow button and hot glued it right to the middle of the bow. Next, I decided that I wanted to distress this a little bit, so I took some Waverly Antique Wax, and I just went around the edges of my jar and then a little bit on the inside of the jar too. And then I dabbed it on the metal piece, of course, because it looks like rust, and then I went around the edges. Basically, I went over everything lightly. I even went over the greenery, the little Hello Spring sign, the burlap, so that way it just gave it all that rustic feel. I really love how this came out. I thought it was so cute, and I love the colors. That ballet slipper pink is my pink. I love that shade. I just love the pale pink. And like I said, I'm really loving the pastels for spring, and then that'll be a great transition into Easter decor as well, which I can't wait to get into because I absolutely love Easter. But here's my little mason jar Hello Spring sign. What do you think? For my fourth DIY, and this is my favorite one out of all of these, I picked up this book stack from the Dollar Tree around Valentine time, so now. And it took forever to get these in my stores. I had not seen them, but when I saw them, I grabbed a bunch because I love these little book stacks. So the first thing I'm going to do is give this book stack 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint in white. After my paint was dry, I'm going to take those decals again, and I'm just going to lay them on my books. Now, I start at the top and crease it over, and I just wanted it to look like it was layered and like draping over the sides. So I'm just kind of playing with my decals until I get it to how I like. And then for the sides, I am actually going to cut off and place them back down to where they were supposed to be. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. But I loved how this turned out. Now, I even went on the ends of my book stack as well because, like I said, I just wanted it to look like these flowers were just going over the entire stack. After I made sure all my decals were pushed down really, really well, I took that knife again and carefully cut where the slats are. Now, you do want to be careful because it will move your decal. So just very carefully go over and inside each of the little slats. You can see that that kind of ripped that one a little bit. So that's why I say do it carefully and go slow. This is sped up, obviously, but I went super slow when I did this. And then to make those slats even more open, I guess, I took my scraper tool, which is a little thicker than that knife, and I went ahead and pressed that in those slots to go ahead and open them up more, if that makes sense. And then what this did was the paper or the decal that was around the slats, it kind of pushed it into the slat, if that makes sense. So it just kind of helped it stay down, basically. And then I went on the sides and did the same thing. Now, again, you could stop right here if you love how clean and crisp it is, but I do want to distress this a little, so I'm going to take that foam brush and I'm just going to take the Waverly Antique Wax and dab it all the way around the edges. And then I'm also going to go inside the slats. I'm going to go a little bit over the flowers, just basically adding that brown just kind of all over, lightly all over this book stack. Then to seal it all together, I'm going to Mod Podge the entire book stack, and this is going to help all my decals stay down. Next up, I printed this decal from my Cricut, and it says Spring in Bloom, and I love that. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply those to the sides. The font, I actually remembered it this time, is called Spring Break. How perfect is that? I thought it was a perfect fit. Now, to make the words look less bold and black, I went ahead and sanded them down lightly, and then you can see I'm taking that brush that I used to paint the book stacks, that white brush, and I'm just lightly going over it. And then I lost the dot in my eye, so I'm just using my paint marker to go ahead and add that. Next, I'm going to add some twine to the other side of my book stack, and I'm going to hot glue it starting in the back, and then I'm just going to wrap it around and around and around until I get the thickness of twine that I like. Then I'm going to take my random little greenery picks again, and I'm just going to stick them underneath the twine, and I'm just going to build it up with greenery until I like it. Once again, I'm going to make another shoelace bow out of my twine, and I'm going to hot glue that down onto my greenery. And I did decide to add some little picks to the sides as well. And then to top it off, I'm going to add this little pink flower that I had in my stash. I loved how this book stack came out. I think it's beautiful and perfect for spring. You can see why it's my favorite. What do you think? For the first DIY, we're going to start off super simple. I picked up this little pump soap container from the Dollar Tree, and I purposely went with the navy theme, and all I'm doing is wrapping around some jute cord at the top and the bottom. Now I'm wrapping it around 3 times at the top and 3 times at the bottom, so just super simple. And I am using a bunch of hot glue to do this. Now there are like little grooves in the soap dispenser, so that makes it easy to wrap the twine around. But I did 3 times up top, as you can see there, and then 3 times at the bottom. So in today's video, I have a couple new DIYs plus 2 nautical themed DIYs I made last year, and those DIYs actually inspired my bathroom. So I included those in this video as well. So as you watch me wrap twine around my soap dispenser, I want to take this opportunity and welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, thank you so much for stopping by today. I truly hope that you love and enjoy everything you see. If you're returning, thank you so much, especially for hanging around with me while I took my little break. If you missed my last video, I kind of gave you a life update and a channel update, so you can definitely catch that after you finish this video. I will have it attached to the end of this YouTube video, so that way you can just kind of get up to speed of where I've been and what's been going on. Otherwise, I'm so happy that you joined me today, and I hope you join me for lots of future content. After all my twine was wrapped, I took this little container of mini starfish that I actually had left over from my daughter's first birthday party 4 years ago. It was mermaid themed, so I have a ton of fish, seashells, starfish, just a bunch of stuff. I actually got these on Amazon. I can link them in my description box below if you're interested. But I am just randomly hot gluing these starfish all in between where the twine is around the soap dispenser. Now I will warn you, I don't know if these were real at one point. I I don't think so. I know I sound dumb saying that, but these kind of smell fishy. Like, it drives my dog crazy because he can smell some kind of animal, I think. So just beware. It's not too bad, but it's just something I noticed. But that finished this soap dispenser, and it's perfect to go in my nautical themed bathroom. So you're going to have to stay tuned till the end because I'm going to show you how I decorated my bathroom and what it looks like all put together. For this second DIY, I'm going to take this leftover Halloween sign, and I really liked it because it kind of looked like driftwood or like boar. I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of beach theme. So, of course, I have to start off by cutting off the hanger and getting this dang sticker off the back. And the best way I found to do it was to heat it up with my heat gun, then take my little scraper and just scrape it off. And look how easily that comes off. So, definitely recommend heating this up and then just scraping it off. Once I scrape this sticker all off, I am going to take some sandpaper and I'm just going to sand down the back of the board just to get the rest of the sticker residue off of there and get it ready for me to paint. Now, I do want to cover in these holes, so I'm going to take my spackle. As you can tell, it's kind of dry because, I haven't crafted in a long time, so it kind of sat there and dried up, but it still worked. So once the holes were filled, I sanded that down, and now I'm going to take my white Waverly chalk paint, and I am just going to messily, I don't even think that's a word, but just kind of paint over it. You can tell I'm not going for full coverage here, but I am just kind of getting, majority covered as a base coat. Next, I'm going to take a chippy brush and Waverly paint in the color Pool, and I am just going to dry brush some of that pool color all over the top of this board. Next, I'm going to take Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to dry brush that at the bottom, and I'm going to work myself up and kind of blend the two in the middle. Now, if you notice, I'm still using the same brush. I don't care if these two colors kind of mix together. That's what I want, because I want it to look like the sky is meeting the sea. And you can see that I'm not making it even, the darker blue. I'm definitely not making that even at the top because I want it to look like the ocean. Next, I'm going to take a smaller brush and I'm going to dip it in some Mod Podge, and just in sections, I'm going to paint some Mod Podge on, and then I'm going to take some sand and go ahead and put some sand over my Mod Podge. Now you can see that I am putting a thick layer of Mod Podge. You're going to want to do a thick layer. Don't forget that it will dry clear, so no worries on that. But I'm just kind of sprinkling the sand and kind of smoothing it out with my finger, and I'm going to do this going across the whole bottom of my board. Now, as I apply the Mod Podge and the sand, you can see that I'm not doing it very evenly. I want it to look kind of bumpy and just kind of random, just like how sand would actually be. There's higher points, there's lower points. And then after I go across the whole board, you can see that I'm going to go and fill in any spaces that I feel like needs sand. And that's all there is to this sand part. And I'm just going to kind of make it look sandy. Next, I'm going to take these really tiny seashells that I got in a jar from the Dollar Tree, and I'm so sorry I cut off the bottom of this, but I at first started gluing a bunch of them down, and then I just didn't like it. It kind of looked cheap and hokey to me, so I ended up just putting 4 across the bottom of my board because I felt like that was just enough. You'll see it in the final reveal when you actually see the whole project completed, but yeah, so I'm sorry I accidentally cut that off. Then to complete this, I cut off the word relax from my Cricut. And if you don't have a Cricut, that's okay. You can use the rub-on letters. You can use stickers from the Dollar Tree. You can stencil this on. I thought that this would be really, I actually thought about stenciling it, and then I just ended up cutting it. But there are a lot of options you can use besides the Cricut. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply my word right in the middle of the sign. Now, I did feel like the black was kind of bold. So what I'm going to do is actually take a brush and I'm going to dip it in that plaster paint, and then I'm wiping it off with a wipe just to kind of get most of the paint off. And you can see I'm kind of dry brushing the plaster paint from Waverly all over my word. And I'm doing this just to kind of dull down the black and just to kind of make it more rustic and just kind of, you know, smooth and airy, I guess, and just, you know, kind of tone it down a little bit. And you can see that it's on there, but it's not so dark. Now, to finalize this and add a hanger, I'm just going to take the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to tie a knot at one end and then glob a whole bunch of glue on one end of my sign. And I'm kind of going where those holes were. I can kind of see where they were. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other end of the rope. I'm going to tie a knot and hot glue that down. And that was it. That was it to this project. I think this has to be one of my top favorites out of this whole video. I absolutely loved how this came out. I think it's so beachy, it's so nautical, and I think it's perfect for a bathroom as well. Now, you do want to hold your knots down so the glue sets, and then I just cut off the excess rope there and kind of frayed it at the end, and that was it. I love this sign. Now, the next DIY is from last year. DIY, I'm going to start off by using this little mountain sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. And of course, the first thing I have to do is take off that dreaming word right on the front. I found it was easy to heat it up with my hairdryer and then just use a scraper tool to go ahead and scrape it off. Now, once I got a little part off, you can see it pulled off very easily. It was just getting it started that was just a little difficult. Next, I used my screwdriver to take off the hanger on the back. After that, I flipped my sign over and I peeled off the paper that was on the front. As you can see, it came off pretty easy. Then after I got it all off, I went ahead and I sanded down the front of my sign. Next, I took my ruler and I drew a line in the middle of the two little mountains. Now, I don't know if these are supposed to be mountains, but that's what I'm going to call them. Now, I want to separate these two, so that's why I'm drawing the line. Then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go back and forth and score it quite a few times. And after I do that, it was easy just to snap in half. After I got the two pieces apart, I took my knife and I just kind of cleaned up the edges a little bit. There was still a little paper hanging over, so I just cut that off. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to sand the edges down so they're nice and smooth. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I hope you choose to stick around for a while by subscribing to my channel, and I want to thank you for choosing to join me today. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I truly hope that everyone enjoys what they see today. I really did have a lot of fun putting all of these together. And I got a lot of inspiration for these DIYs from my trip to Myrtle Beach. So I could not wait to put what I saw into some great home decor pieces. So I hope you love it. So after I sanded down all the edges and cleaned them up a little bit, I took both of my pieces and I gave them one good coat of ivory chalk paint from Waverly. After my pieces were dry, I took a piece of burlap and cut it to fit the bigger of the triangles. Then I cut off the seams because I'm going to fray the edges. These 2 triangles are now going to become sails in my project. Then by using some hot glue, I glued my burlap onto the bigger sail. Then I took some scissors and just cut it down so it fit. Next, I took this piece of bamboo that I had left over from a wind chime, and this did come from the Dollar Tree, and I just dry brushed some of that ivory paint all over the bamboo. Now, what I have here are actually 2 pieces of bamboo on a longer dowel rod, but you're going to see it later on in the video, I'm actually going to just use the 1 piece, so I'll take it apart, but you'll see that soon. After that, I took these jumbo craft sticks that I got from Walmart, and I'm simply just laying them out because now we're going to make the bottom of our boat. So what I did was I put them underneath the stick, and this is, I think, when I realized that the stick was just a little bit too long. So I'm going to put 3 of them next to each other, and then I'm going to use some painter's tape to tape them all together. Next, I flipped them around, and by using a pencil, I drew a shape of a boat. And I'm sorry, I kind of went out of frame here, but you can see I'm just making curved lines on either side. And then I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut on my lines. After that, I'm going to take these little craft sticks and I'm going to cut them down so it fits all 3 of my big craft sticks. And that is how I'm going to glue the big craft sticks all together. I hope that made sense. So I'm doing 2 in the middle, and then I'm going to take off the tape. I did not take off the tape first because I didn't want the craft sticks to move. So there you go, see, and now they're all together. Then I cut another small craft stick in half, and I'm just going to put those on either side to give it extra support. So now I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put the bottom of my boat, and this is where I decide it's just a little too long. So I pulled one of my bamboo sticks off of the dowel rod, and then I'm going to set this up like a boat. Now I did want the bottom of my boat to overlap my stick just a little bit, so that's how I'm going to arrange it. So now that I have all of those top pieces, I'm going to get a long board that I got from the Dollar Tree, and this is just a big square sign. I apologize, I don't know why I didn't show the front. And I'm going to cover this in white chalk paint. Once that was dry, I took my Waverly chalk paint in Pool, and I am going to dry brush that on top of my sign going side to side. Now that green paint in that coffee filter is completely dry, so I'm not using green paint at all. It's just still on there, but I just didn't want to confuse you. All I'm doing is taking that pool color and I'm going to dry brush that over the top half of my sign. I know it's kind of hard to tell here, but in the photos you'll be able to notice it. Then I'm going to take my chalk paint in the color Ocean, and I'm going to dry brush that on the bottom of my sign. Now I am still using the same brush because I do want the two colors to blend where they meet. So I'm just going to put the darker ocean color at the bottom to represent the ocean. Now I kind of felt that the ocean color was just a little too dark, so I just mixed in a little bit of the white. And now I'm kind of mixing all three colors together and dry brushing over that because the ocean has different tones in it, so I wanted to give it more dimension. While that board was drying, I took the bottom of my boat and a baby wipe and dipped that in Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to use this to faux stain my boat. Now I am making sure to get the edges and sides of my boat as well. Next, I'm going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and a chippy brush, and I'm just going to dry brush that chalk paint over my boat. Once both of those pieces were dry, it was time to put all of this together. So I arranged my boat onto my board, and then I hit that bamboo stick just one more time with that white paint because I needed it to stand out a little bit more. Then to make the bottom of my boat 3D, I added some of these blocks from the Dollar Tree to the back of the boat, and then I'm going to hot glue that down at the bottom of my board. Now you can see that I stuck the bamboo stick underneath the bottom of my boat. So now I'm just arranging it and making sure I love how it looks. Now before I glue everything down, I took these stencils that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stencil this entire stencil or whatever fit on that other sail. Now, I loved using these stencils. They were so easy to apply. I just used a small craft stick and just rubbed them right on. They came out clean and crisp, and I would highly recommend these from the Dollar Tree. After I lifted my rub-on transfer off, I just filled in the little bare areas with the little seashells that were on the rub-on sheet. After that, I arranged my boat back together, and I started off by hot gluing the stick down on my board first, but in a little bit you're going to see me peel that off because the sails were not in the middle. Now, before I hot glued the rest of the pieces down, I decided that I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to the pieces by dry brushing some Waverly Antique Wax on the edges of all of my pieces. Then I went ahead and hot glued the rest of my boat accessories down on my board. Now to make it easier, I actually drew a line where I knew my pieces had to go. That way, when I have the glue on, I can place them just where they were. After my boat was all glued down, I took some seashells and I glued them to the bottom right side of my boat. Finally, to add a hanger, I'm using this cotton twine nautical rope that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to tie 2 knots on 2 ends of the twine and then hot glue those knots over the existing holes. Now you do want to make sure to use a generous amount of hot glue to glue these down. Once they were glued down, I cut off the ends of those knots, and that was it. Now I have this super cute boat sign, and I think this is so nautical, and of course it's rustic because that's so me, but I love the colors in this, and I think that those rub-on transfers went so well. Now I did hit this again one more time with that Waverly Antique Wax just to help my little pieces pop from the background, but I absolutely love how this came out. I don't know if you're into coastal or nautical or beach theme. I don't decorate like that in my house at all, but if I did, this would be on my wall for sure. Moving right along, I'm going to start off with this little box sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. So of course the first thing I had to do was unwrap it, and then I'm going to paint the front of it with 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint, and that's just to cover up all the writing. Now this sign was actually inspired from something I saw on Pinterest, and I thought it was hilarious. So I decided to recreate it, and it's perfect for a bathroom, and you're going to see why in just a second. Now this was before I actually had my ocean paint. I had left it at my mom's, so I had to kind of create my own kind of navy darker blue. So I just mixed some black in with some blue acrylic paint, but if I had my ocean, I would have used that. But I just went ahead and I just kind of, again, messily, I'm just all about making up words, brushing on this paint, and as you can see, I'm going in one direction. I didn't want it to be fully covered, but I wanted it, the majority of it, to be covered. And then once that dried, I cut off this saying, it says poop deck, and I thought that was hilarious for a bathroom. And then I also cut out an anchor as well to go ahead and put on it. And then I just placed my anchor and my words on my sign. I actually thought of my grandpa when I made this because I just think he's gonna think that this is hilarious, and I don't know, I just think he'll get a kick out of this, and my dad too. So like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and place my wording and my anchor right in the middle. Next, I did decide to go ahead and paint the sides of the sign in that blue paint. I was just going to kind of, I don't know, add some antique wax to the sides. As you can see, I started that, but then I decided to go for it and just paint the sides. Next, I'm going to take these silver tacks thumbtacks that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use my wire cutters to cut off the actual tack part, and then I'm going to hot glue these down. Now be careful because they do get hot because it's metal on hot glue, but I'm going to hot glue one down in each corner, and then to give it that rustic look, I'm going to dip a makeup sponge in the Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just going to just paint over the tacks. I don't have much silver in the bathroom. It's more of like the browns, the blues, the whites, those kind of colors. So that's why I went ahead and changed it. But I thought that sign was hilarious. All right, enjoy this DIY from last year too. This next DIY was really fun to make. So I took this picture from the Dollar Tree, and after removing it from its packaging, I'm going to use my heat gun or my hair dryer and a scraper tool to get that black frame off. Now I was very careful because I am going to use this black frame, but as you can see it did kind of break, but it was an easy fix because all I did was hot glue it back together. Next, I took the sign part and I gave that a good coat of Waverly chalk paint in white, and I did make sure to paint the sides of my sign as well. After that dried, I took this pack of craft sticks that I got from Lowe's, and I just started cutting them down in different lengths. I did make sure to cut off the curved parts on either end, and then I just started laying them out so it just looked like different length boards. And then I just kind of covered this whole thing and just cut them down as I went. Now, when I went to the second row, I made sure that there was a different length stick underneath what was on top, if that makes sense. So I didn't put two of the same size on top of each other or next to each other. And I did this until my whole board was covered. Real quick, this is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it also tells YouTube that you're loving what you see and that you want to see more, and YouTube will put my videos in your suggestions. So be sure to give this video a like for more DIY and home decor inspiration. So when I got to the bottom of the board, I noticed that the craft sticks were going to be too wide to cover up that white space. So I arranged them, made sure that they were all lined up and they went from side to side. And then I took two other craft sticks, cut them down to how I wanted them to look, and then I decided to go ahead and hot glue those on. Then I proceeded to hot glue the rest of my sticks down on my board. After that, I took my sandpaper and I sanded the edges of my sticks down. That way they were smooth because I did cut them so they were a little jagged, so I wanted to smooth them down. Then I took my scissors and cut off any of the stick that was hanging over and then sanded that down as well. Now when I was cutting this last piece, it did break, so I just had to piece it together again. So I just cut down little pieces and just fit them in, and it worked out fine. Once that was done, it was time to paint my board. So I'm going to be using 4 different colors. I'm going to use the Waverly chalk paint in the color Pool, Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral, Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory, and Waverly antique wax. And what I started doing was just using all the colors to paint one of my little boards, and I made sure not to put 2 of the same color next to each other. Now I did have to give 2 coats to the Pool and the Ivory color, and I did this until my whole board was painted. I really had a lot of fun painting this, just because it was just fun switching between all of the different colors and testing out where to put every color or trying to figure it out. So this just, I don't know, it's kind of relaxing just painting my sign. Once that was dry, I took my sandpaper and I sanded this down really well so some of the natural wood was peeking through from underneath. Then I took my Waverly antique wax and I dry brushed over the lighter parts, and then I took my Waverly white wax and dry brushed over the entire sign. And I thought that this added a ton of dimension. I love dry brushing the waxes on because it's just, I just love that rustic look. Now, if this is not for you and you don't like the rustic look, you can absolutely skip this step. You don't have to do it. That's the beauty of DIYing. You can do whatever makes you happy. After that, I sanded it down one more time just to help it all blend in. Next, I took that frame and I gave it a coat of Ivory chalk paint. Then I took my chippy brush and that Waverly antique wax and dry brushed over that. After that was dry, I placed that frame back into the middle of my board, and I, at this point, had not glued it down. Then I took this burlap ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I cut off a piece to fit in the middle of the frame, and then I frayed the edges by cutting the edges off and just pulling the strings out. Next, I'm going to hot glue that burlap in the middle of the frame, and then I'm going to glue down the frame. Next, I took these wooden letters that I got from the Dollar Tree and I pulled out an H, an M, and an E. Now, I did like the natural wood, so I didn't necessarily want to paint these, so I just dry brushed some Waverly Antique wax over each of my letters. Now, to create an O, I just pulled out a cute seashell. After that, I just glued all of my pieces down. Then I felt like this needed one final detail, so I took these silver tacks that I got from the Dollar Tree and pushed one in every corner of that frame. And then I brushed over the tacks with that Waverly Antique wax. I really love this. I think it is perfect for coastal decor. It would be perfect at a beach house or a lake house, and I just love how rustic and beachy this looked. I'm actually going to give this to my mom because the colors behind it, the blue colors, would match perfectly in her bathroom, but I'm actually going to change out the word home for the word bath, and I think she's really going to enjoy it. She's been trying to accessorize her bathroom, and I think that this would fit right in. What do you For the next DIY, I'm going to go ahead and start off with this little box that I got from the Dollar Tree. And this is like a little shadow box that has all the confetti. And look what happened when I took the wrapper off. Some of the confetti actually fell out. So clearly it's not in there very well, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to take this all apart anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that back off. Now you do want to be careful because it has nails, like very, very teeny tiny little nails, so just don't poke yourself. So I went ahead and got rid of the confetti, popped off all the decoration, and I was going to go ahead and try to peel off that paper, but I gave up. So I just flipped it over, took off that little hanger, sanded down the holes, and then I'm going to actually go ahead and decorate that side of the actual board. Now you can see I just took off a little nail, so like I said, just watch when you take this off. Now, I started off dry brushing some plaster from Waverly all over this board. I don't really know if it was necessary. I thought I would have to kind of hide the, the brown peeking through, because next I'm going to use the pool color. But like I said, I don't know if this was 100% necessary, but at least it gave it a base coat, I guess. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and put that pool color, wow, I cannot talk today, pool color from Waverly, and I'm going to paint this board with that. Then to bring in the rustic look, I'm just going to dry brush some Waverly Antique wax all over my board. Now I am paying attention to the sides and the corners, but as you can see, I'm basically just dry brushing it all over, going in one direction. Next, I'm going to take my level, or you can just use a ruler, and I'm going to put it in the center of my board. And by using my paint pen, I'm just going to mark going on either side. Now, the paint pen didn't really show up as well, so next I'm going to go in with a Sharpie, and I tried my best to make it as straight as possible, but the paint just kind of was bumpy. So I went ahead and did what I could, and then I sanded it down. Next, I'm going to take some sand, actual sand, and I'm going to pour it on the glass part, or in the glass part of the frame. Now, I didn't have a lot of like sand color sand, like tan color sand. But I had a lot of this white sand, but you can use whatever color that you want. So, my mistake though here is I put the sand down first and then I put my seashells and stuff. You're going to want to put your seashells and starfish or whatever else you want to put in here down first, and then your sand on top of it. I totally wasn't thinking and put my sand down first. So I just kind of put my board on the back and tested it, and just to see if I had put enough sand, and I thought it was a good amount. So now, as you can see, I'm just kind of putting like those little pieces in there, and I think I got that from the Dollar Tree as well, but a long time ago. And then I'm going to use some of those starfish and just kind of push those down. Now, the problem with the backing, the board on the back, was that it's too small. Like, it doesn't cover the entire back. So I actually noticed that when I went to hot glue this on and I flipped it over, sand was pouring out from the back. So I am going to fix that in just a second, but just be aware. At first I thought it would fix it. If you could see, I'm just kind of globbing on the hot glue to go ahead and fill in those creases and the just where the board meets the frame. But like I said, it didn't really work. So what I ended up doing was actually covering the back completely. So to fix it, I just took some cardboard. I traced my frame around the cardboard, and then I'm just going to simply hot glue the cardboard to the back, and that really helped keep all the sand in. You do want to put a generous amount of hot glue in the back, but like I said, that really seemed to fix the problem. This is your friendly reminder that if you love what you see so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube you love what you see and you want to see more. So smash that like button. Next, I got this little like glass decal from the Dollar Tree, and it had an anchor on it, and I thought it was perfect. So I went ahead and peeled that off. Now for this, I'm only going to use that anchor and then the wheels underneath. I'm going to go ahead and apply that to my frame, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the wheels. Now, as I was looking at it, I kind of thought that this needed something, so I went ahead and hot glued some skinny twine to the sides, or to the front of the frame. And now you do want to use a lot of hot glue for this too. For some reason I was having trouble with it sticking. See, I did put hot glue there, but it just didn't stick. And I'm just going to go all the way around the front of this frame. Now I still felt like it needed something, so I'm going to take those thumbtacks again, and I'm going to use my wire cutters to go ahead and actually cut off the tack part, just like I did before. And then I'm going to hot glue one to every corner. Then again, I'm going to take that makeup sponge and the Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that on each one of the tacks to just kind of give it that rustic, rusty look. Then while I had my makeup sponge out, I'm going to very lightly go over the sides of my frame as well, just to kind of darken it up a little bit, but also bring in that rustic, rusty look. I really love how this little sign came out. I think it is so pretty, and I really loved the white sand in this as well. Can't wait to put it in my bathroom. All right, now this is kind of a bonus DIY. I already had this box sitting on top of my toilet to hold toilet paper, and it says, please take a seat on one side. So I thought I'd flip it over and put beach bums on the other side. I thought that would be funny. So I just cut this off of my Cricut and went ahead and applied it. All right, so now that all the DIYs are complete, it's time to look at the final reveal. I really hope that you love how I decorated my bathroom. What do you think?
I love you. I give you everything you want me to. Think about it. If I could, I'd run down the moon and give that to.
I absolutely loved how my bathroom came out. I think it's perfect for summer decor, and we do have the pool, so I kind of just wanted to follow through with like the relax and oasis and, you know, the vacation. I don't know, I just wanted it to be fun. So as you can see, I actually just draped some Dollar Tree netting, Fisher net, over the shelves behind my toilet, and then you'll see that I did the same thing over like the actual vanity part. And then those candle holders I actually had in my daughter's mermaid bathroom, but obviously I stuck them in this bathroom. Now the towel that you're going to see here in just a second that has the turtle on it actually came from Hobby Lobby, and I just loved the colors in it, and I thought that it went really well in this bathroom. But I am absolutely loving how this came out. You're going to see on the vanity part, there's a sign that says seize the day. That actually came from Big Lots last year on sale, and I actually got it to craft with, but I found it in the craft room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this will go perfect in my bathroom. So I threw it up there as well. I also went ahead and filled my soap dispenser. So this bathroom is ready to go for whenever guests come over and hang out at the pool and have to go to the bathroom. They can kind of, you know, get the whole beachy vibe there too. So you're going to have to let me know down in the comments what you think of my nautical themed bathroom. Normally this is not my style at all, but I don't know, those two DIYs I did last year, the one with the boat and the one that said home, those just inspired me to go ahead and just kind of take this theme and run with it in my guest bathroom this year. So definitely let me know what you think. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you loved what you see. Also, hit that subscribe button because I have a lot more fun content coming up that I know you're not going to want to miss. And just thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you really loved what you saw and just got a lot of DIY inspiration and ideas on how you can decorate a room in your home, whether it be a bedroom, a bathroom, a living room, a family room. Really, this nautical beachy theme is perfect to carry throughout the summer. Now, probably in July, I'm going to add some flags or some 4th of July decor in there, but it will pair perfectly for this summer theme. So I hope you really enjoyed it. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!